The forest moon of Valdris Prime had seen better days. Lieutenant Sarah Kane stumbled through the undergrowth, her combat suit torn in 3 places, blood seeping from a gash across her ribs. The reconnaissance mission had gone sideways when the Krell ambush caught her squad off guard. She was the only one who made it to the escape pod, but the landing had been brutal. Now, 12 hours later, she was lost in alien wilderness with a failing transponder and dwindling supplies. The whimpering stopped her in her tracks. Sarah froze, hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. The sound came again, high-pitched, desperate, and distinctly young. Against every survival protocol screaming in her head, she moved toward it. Behind a fallen log, she found them, 2 creatures no bigger than earth puppies, covered in silvery fur that shimmered like starlight. Their eyes, far too intelligent for ordinary animals, locked onto hers with a mixture of fear and hope. One had its leg caught in what looked like a natural trap, a tangle of thorned vines that drew tighter with each movement. "Easy there," Sarah whispered, lowering herself slowly. She recognized them from the briefing files. Lupari, the indigenous species of Valdris Prime, highly territorial, fiercely protective, and according to Alliance records, utterly hostile to human presence. The trapped cub whined again. Sarah pulled out her multi-tool. "Yeah, I know. Your pack's probably looking for you, which means I'm about to make a very stupid decision." It took 15 minutes of careful cutting to free the injured cub. Its sibling watched her every move, occasionally letting out soft chirps. When the trapped one was finally free, it didn't flee. Instead, both cubs pressed against her, their cold noses investigating her wounds. "I'm okay," she lied, feeling the fever building in her system. The adrenaline was wearing off and her vision swam. "You two should go home," but they didn't leave. When Sarah finally collapsed against a tree trunk, unable to go further, the cubs curled up against her chest. Their body heat was surprisingly warm, their purring vibrations oddly soothing. She meant to keep watch, meant to stay alert. Instead, exhausted and wounded, Lieutenant Sarah Kane fell asleep with 2 alien wolf cubs nestled against her heart. Alpha Varric moved through the forest like liquid shadow, his pack flowing behind him. Rage burned in his chest, a fury that had been building since dawn when the scouts reported the cubs missing. His cubs, the future of the pack, and then the human ship had crashed. The timing was too convenient. Humans took things, resources, territory, offspring. The galaxy had learned this lesson in blood and fire. Whatever genetic quirk made humans so adaptable, so relentlessly successful, also made them dangerous. They bonded with anything, conquered everything, and refused to acknowledge when they were beaten. The trail was easy to follow. Human blood, distinct and copper-rich, mixed with his cub's scent. Varric's lips curled back from his fangs. The pack had voted. There would be no mercy. They found the human at dusk. Varric expected many things. A fortified position, weapons drawn, perhaps even the cubs in some kind of cage or restraint. What he found made him freeze mid-stride, his killing instinct faltering. The human sat slumped against a tree, clearly unconscious. Her armor was damaged, her breathing shallow. But that wasn't what stopped him. His cubs, his precious, irreplaceable cubs, were curled up on her chest, fast asleep. Safe. Unharmed. The smaller one's injured leg had been carefully bandaged with strips torn from the human's own clothing. They slept peacefully, their silver fur rising and falling with each breath, completely at ease. Varric's second Kessa moved up beside him. "Alpha?" He raised a paw, halting the pack. His mind raced through possibilities. Humans were clever. This could be a trap, a manipulation. But his senses told him otherwise. The human's weapons remained holstered. The medical supplies in her pack hadn't been touched. She'd used her own clothing instead. And the scent? There was no fear scent from the cubs. No distress pheromones, only contentment. "She saved them," Kessa said quietly, reading the signs as clearly as he did. The vines were thorned. "She bled to free them." Varric stepped closer. The human's eyes moved behind closed lids. Fever dreams. Her wounds were infected. Without treatment, she would die by morning. The galaxy's most persistent predator, brought down by alien bacteria. How very ordinary. One of the cubs stirred, sensing his presence. Its eyes opened, and instead of scrambling away to safety, it chirped happily and burrowed deeper against the human's chest. Something ancient loosened in Varric's chest. The Lupari had a saying, "Pack is not blood, pack is choice." For millennia they had chosen only their own kind. But the galaxy was changing. The Krell Wars had taught everyone that isolation was death, and this human, she had chosen his cubs over her own survival. "Alpha," Kessa asked again. "Your orders?" Varric looked at his gathered pack. 40 warriors, teeth bared, ready to avenge what they thought had been taken. He thought of all the briefings, all the warnings about humans. Their expansion, their ambition, their terrifying ability to turn enemies into allies, to find common ground in the most unlikely places. Maybe that was what made them dangerous. Or maybe that was what made them necessary. "Wake her," Varric said finally, carefully, "and summon the healers." Kessa's ears flicked in surprise. "We're not—" "She saved my cubs," Varric interrupted, his voice carrying to the entire pack. "She bled for them, sacrificed her supplies, protected them when she could have used them as shields or bargaining chips." He met each warrior's eyes in turn. The human had every reason to abandon them. She chose otherwise. He patted closer, letting his massive form loom over the sleeping figure. The cubs looked up at him trustingly. The human's hand, even in unconsciousness, rested protectively over them. "We came for blood," Varric said softly, "but blood is not always repaid with blood. Sometimes it's repaid with debt, with honor." He looked back at his pack. "This human is now under pack protection. Anyone who harms her answers to me." As the healers came forward and the pack began setting up a defensive perimeter, Varric settled down nearby. He would keep watch until the human woke. They would have much to discuss about treaties, territories, and the strange ways the universe brought unlikely allies together. The cubs, oblivious to the momentous decision just made, continued sleeping peacefully on Lieutenant Sarah Kane's chest. Tomorrow the galaxy would be slightly different. Today, a pack had learned that sometimes the fiercest wolves protect not just their own, but those who prove themselves worthy, even if they walked on 2 legs instead of 4.